We've all seen the vision of him falling over. We've all heard him bumble and blunder.
Elect me. I'm in the 20th century. If it holds near and dear to you that you like to be able to... Anyway.
And we've heard what happens when you point this out to him.
My memory is so bad I let you speak. The hostage negotiation, look.
Concerns about your age.
That is your judgment. That is your judgment.
But the fact is, Joe Biden is the President of the United States. He is the leader of the free world. It is the most important job in the world. But let's be honest, it's a job he's failing at. And a job that he wants for another 4 years. But even the greatest supporter of Biden knows he's not up to it. He won't last. He's not good enough now. Imagine in a year, 2, 4 years' time. Sky News Digital Originals presents Barely There Biden. To understand the obvious concern about Joe Biden, we thought we could do some research.
And I made it clear to Israelis, don't move on Haifa. It's just not, I mean, anyway, I just, how can I say this without revealing it? You know, I guess I just forgot what was going on.
Now, we know that Joe's been a politician for a long time. That means he's told lots and lots of stories over the years, and none of them have really been true. But they now are just outright bizarre. They get wilder and wilder, and they're clearly not true. They're like a fishing story. I caught the fish and it was this big, and then you tell it again and it's this big, and now it's this big. Take, for example, the story Biden tells about the death of his uncle.
We called him Uncle Bozy. He was shot down. He was in the Army Air Corps before there was an Air Force. He flew single-engine planes, reconnaissance flights over New Guinea. He had volunteered because someone couldn't make it. He got shot down in an area where there were a lot of cannibals in New Guinea at the time. They never recovered his body, but the government went back when I went down there, and they checked and found parts of the plane and the like. He got shot down in New Guinea. And they never found the body because there were a lot of cannibals for real in that part of New Guinea.
The man can't even remember where he grew up.
I was sort of raised in the Puerto Rican community. I had a very close relationship with the Greek American community, for real. I am Joe Bidenopoulos. I grew up in a heavily Irish Catholic community in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and a heavily Italian Polish community. When I say I got raised in the black church, he knows I'm not kidding. The Persian culture is amazing. As a student of the Persian culture, I probably went to shul more than many of you. I come out of the black community. The background of my family is Irish American, not fundamentally unlike the Palestinian people. You might say raised in the synagogues in my state. Everyone in town was either Polish or Italian. I grew up feeling self-conscious. My name didn't end in an SKI. I was raised in a neighborhood where I felt self-conscious. My name didn't end in O. That's kind of how I was raised, like so many Americans of Irish heritage.
In HBCU in your home state, Mr. President.
Let me tell you, forget about it. That's right. That's where I got raised, man. Just like rabbis, synagogues, and Jewish community centers in your hometowns, and that's the tradition I got raised. Hard-working people, the middle class, the neighborhoods I got raised in. I was raised on GM. I was raised by Danny Inouye. I was raised by a righteous Christian. I got raised on automobiles.
Now, I get it. This stuff is funny, and I don't want to be rude, but there is an obvious cognitive decline with the leader of the free world. His party could pick somebody else because the consequences of a guy that is decaying before our eyes are so obvious. The world struggles, the economy, crime, you name it, he has a responsibility as the president. And does anyone honestly believe that this bloke is on top of it and making all the key decisions? I mean, take your pick. Do you trust anything that he's doing on the world stage?
Unfortunately, the United States of America under President Joe Biden is
going backwards. It's making the world less safe. It's making the United States less safe. He has been a foreign policy disaster. Look at the wars that we have going on around the world, and we're probably going to see another war very soon with China invading Taiwan, and it's very scary. I mean, the Strait of Hormuz could be closed by Iran. Who knows what's going to happen? That's going to affect us. It's going to affect Australia and the free world, and we're not getting leadership out of President Biden.
Look, the Biden administration has been talking tough. We had a speech with Antony Blinken in June last year saying that through diplomacy and deterrence, we can hold Iran at bay because we know that they actively support terrorists. But the fact of the matter is that even after October 7, the US did not enforce oil sanctions against Iran, which means it was able to export 1.4 billion barrels of oil a day. And of course, all that money goes to finance terrorists. Weakness invites aggression. It's a bit like the schoolyard. If you want to stop bullies, you've got to stand up to them. And over the last 18 months or so, America has not been standing up to Iran, and we've seen the consequences of that since October.
Let alone what's happening at home. Millions of people have crossed into the country illegally. And regardless of how you feel of people who come from somewhere else, this is a huge problem.
No, that by definition, we don't know a lot about them because they are getting in illegally. They're illegal aliens. Yeah, I use that term. More on that later. And so we don't know, but I'll tell you what I'll tell you this, is that we are bombarded in our media with examples of criminal behavior by these illegal aliens. We've seen violence, illegal behavior, and now what we're seeing, this new kind of trend we're seeing, this idea of squatting. Now, I don't know if people in Australia understand what this concept means, but in the blue states here, what they've done is they've legalized people essentially stealing homes. I know that sounds crazy, but essentially if you break into a home and you are there for more than a certain amount of days, you would now have legal rights to that home, despite the fact you have zero connection to it, and it becomes very difficult for the real owners to kick you out. So these illegal aliens are now gaming the system, and we're now bombarded with new images of these illegals now squatting in homes and taking over homes. Look, I know Biden wants to do nothing for the border because he thinks that's some kind of electoral win from him, but just from the sense of self-preservation, this thing is so out of control, you would think he'd want to do something just for his own electoral prospects. Never mind that he doesn't care that we have open borders, right? That's really his philosophy. But just from a self-preservation concept, he would think he would do something. He's so bad at this, Rita. He's so bad at this. This is why Trump is beating him consistently in the polls for things like this.
Don't get me started about Bidenomics, a flashy slogan that's about more government spending, but it's not paying off. Everyday Americans feel just as financially insecure as they did during a global pandemic, and that's when they were forced to stay inside.
Remember, the top two issues fluctuate between the economy and the wide open border. But if it is the economy in the end going into November, no, I don't think so. So President Biden and his team keep going out there trying to sell Bidenomics. And they keep trying to put lipstick on the pig, but the pig is still a pig. And it flies right in the face of the American people's lived experience. True. With sky-high prices, deeply entrenched inflation, and now rising gas prices. We could have gas prices $7 a gallon by the summer.
$7 a gallon?
$7 a gallon by the summertime, if the current trends continue, yeah.
That's if the Mideast absolutely blows up. You're at 363 at the moment.
Well, it depends where you are in the country as well.
No, the national average for regular is 363. You're telling me that it's going to double
California,
this summer?
It's higher. There are a number of states where it's higher.
The national average is 363.
It could very well,
Monica,
yes.
Are you seriously sitting there and telling me we're going to have $7 a gallon gasoline?
Yes. Absolutely.
Then oil would have to go to $120 a barrel.
Your point about the Middle East is important as well, because we've got heightened tensions there, putting enormous pressures on that market.
But the Middle East has to explode before you get $120, $130 a barrel oil and $7 gasoline. Is that your forecast?
Well, it could very well happen. Yes. And if it does, it's on top of all of the other inflationary pressures that the American people have been suffering through, thanks to Biden's out-of-control spending over the last 3 years.
And now you say, look, if the top issue is the economy, Biden cannot win. But Biden's playing very strongly into income inequality. He's railing against the billionaires, and I think that's popular. people are looking around saying, well, they don't need all this money. Biden's going to take it off and give it to us. That is popular, like it or not.
Well, I'm not so sure. I think that line of argument worked when Obama, Biden were in the White House. But now I think it's a very tiresome line of argument for the American people because it flies in the face of what America is really all about. America is an aspirational society. We don't hate the rich. We all aspire to be the rich. So I think that line of argument is not going to work this time.
Now, in November, Americans will have to make a choice. Do we do 4 more years of this guy, 4 more years of this individual, 4 years of this person who is so past it, yet the Democrats cannot remove him from office? Or do you go to what was there before? Yes, the tweets weren't great. Sometimes the messaging wasn't pleasant. But the economy, national security, global security, and a secure border was all there under Donald Trump. But it's not like he doesn't have questions either. Multiple legal cases playing out day in, day out, every day between now and November.
As somebody who grew up, in the Australian political system, cast my votes here, it's pretty shocking to see the way in which the legal system in the US is being weaponized for political purposes. There are 4 indictments and 88 felony accounts against the president. And let's not forget that, the certain forces at play tried to keep Trump off the ballot by invoking this insurrection clause of the 14th Amendment. Now, the Supreme Court, no less, after the Colorado Supreme Court said, yeah, this is, we should knock him off the ballot, the Supreme Court 9-0 said, no, you can't do that sort of thing. So it is a concern that rather than fighting out politics at the ballot box, to an increasing extent, it's being done through the legal system.
The whole essence of this case is that it's basically a bookkeeping error that in terms of he paid off this person who happens to be an adult porn star, and that obviously was going to make its way. There's a salacious nature of that in the opening statements. He didn't record it correctly in the books. Normally, that would be a misdemeanor that has a 2-year statute of limitations. However, Alvin Bragg, the district attorney over there in New York, has elevated it into 34 felony counts, and he's going to be sort of weaving that narrative and what the legal theory is, a novel legal theory, in that opening statement. The other side, Trump team's defense, is going to make the point, that I just made, that it's really a stretch, and it's never been a legal theory that's ever been applied before, and they're going to try and dismantle that. But I think the broader point is, in New York, the judge doesn't really like him. The jury is most likely not going to be a jury of his peers because 87% of people in New York City voted for Biden. And so I think even these opening statements and everything else, it's sort of just window dressing, and it's almost like we sort of know which way this is going to go because of the way the jury pool and the judge is inclined to be.
It isn't going to hurt the regular Trump base, as a matter of fact. This whole thing has struck me as sort of absurd. They're saying that he tried to cook the books on paying off this beautiful porn star in 2016. Donald Trump he's in the Wrestling Hall of Fame. having an affair with a porn star wasn't going to exactly hurt his reputation with the people who were going to vote for him anyway. But look, I think we got something going on here we can't quite see, Kenny, and that's the sleaze factor. There's a lot of good Americans, good evangelicals, and others, including young Latinos and blacks and a lot of young people who are turning towards Trump. And they're going to sort of ignore this because they know in America you could probably be charged with things that you shouldn't be charged with. And it's quite obvious to anybody that the charges are politically motivated, even though they may have some basis in truth. I don't think it's going to hurt him too much. But, I've been saying, I don't know who disagrees with me with this, but I think as long as Melania holds out, I think Trump's got a chance here. She disappears. If she has to go on the stand, or Barron does, or something like that. If it gets too embarrassing, I think Trump would fall apart on this one. But look, he's in the wrong place at the wrong time. New Yorkers are determined to convict him. He'd probably get probation. I can't see the 45th president of the United States lining up in the canteen in a jail with an orange jumpsuit on, waiting for his breakfast. It's not going to happen because there's really no room for the Secret Service in prisons as well.
I think there's two options. the first option, the easy option, is he's a rich guy that people attack, make charges, make allegations against, and he, in the haste of things, said, just take care of her, pay her off. That's one. The other is that it's possibly that it's true. In either case, I'm paying for a president to lead this country. And we've talked about this before, Andrew. There's so many issues in this country right now with our open border, our economy, what's happening overseas. We just sent billions and billions of dollars to Ukraine, to Israel, to Taiwan. We have, and part of the reason that we're doing this is because the tide has shifted so much between Trump and Biden, and now we're having to arm people to take care of skirmishes that probably wouldn't have happened if Trump was still in office. And so I look around our country, both domestically and internationally, and say, do I really care that he might not be the perfect person? No. Because we have a situation where these elections are a binary choice. And I look at the 4 years of Trump and the almost 4 years of Biden, and it's not even a close call for me. I know what we need to do. I know who the right person is to do it. And that person right now is Donald Trump.
Not to mention, Trump has to take on the same media that's always hated him, that secretly fantasises about him being unable to ever run for politics again. And even if he got to politics, he could be impeached on day one. But the same media that has provided the protection racket for Joe Biden is now having to tell the truth, that Biden is bumbling, crumbling, and not up to it.
Look at these numbers. Trump advantages on all of these traits.
And I stop here because competent and effective, that was President Biden's, the crux of his campaign pitch back in 2020.
And we actually polled this question in 2020, and it was basically the exact opposite. It was Biden with about a 10-point advantage over Trump. And again, same with handling a crisis. Biden had the edge over Trump. And how about this? It's the former president, the current president. We don't really see matchups like this. Well, now we can measure it. Who has the strong record as president? And again, Trump outpacing Biden on that front. And again, you got to mention this one too, necessary mental and physical health. We asked this 4 years ago. It was a wash. It's now a clear liability for Joe Biden. So these are all troubling numbers for Biden.
Elections are always about choices, and there is no such thing as a perfect candidate, because unless you're running for president, you'll always have a problem with the person who you are being asked to vote for. There are more than just one option on the ticket this year, and we'll see what happens when it comes to RFK. But the reality is that the next president of the United States will be Joe Biden for 4 more years of the same. 4 years that have seen America go backwards, confidence fall, and the average citizen suffer. Or 4 years of Donald Trump, where the best of his presidency may well come back, and the worst of the media will no doubt be there as well. But the choice that is there before anyone who has a chance to vote is, do you want a country that goes forward, that looks for you to decide your future, or big government that is so blind to the reality of what it's doing, it can't admit when its president can't finish a sentence?